So guys, how are today video like aim 200 what if Naruto trained by Sairaorg Bael and had crush on Yasaka movie. It was a good day for everyone from the three factions, including other factions from other mythologies. Sometime after the incident that happened in the underworld, Issei Hyodo, the Red Dragon Emperor and Oppai Dragon, even obtained a new body after his old one was destroyed by Shalba Beelzebub during the said incident. They were enjoying their free time and minding their own business until they suddenly got teleported to a strange, but large room that was beautiful in its designs. The room that they currently occupied was white in color, with beautiful decorations that filled the room, ranging from paintings of famous artists to a large flat-screen plasma TV that was fixed on one of the walls. There were love seats and sofas that looked very comfortable to relax on. There was even a kitchen stocked with food in case someone was hungry. Overall, it looked like your average room that belonged in a mansion. There were a lot of people that were present in the room, those being Rias, Sona, their peerages, with Benya and Lugaro in Sona's peerage, Sairaorg, the four Mao with Grafia, Gabriel, Michael, and Dulio, Azazel, Tobio, the Valley team, Yasaka and her daughter, Ophis, Ravel, Irina, Valerie, Elmenhilda, and the hero faction, except Siegfried. All of them were wondering what was going on, except Ophis who had the perfect poker face. What the? Valley and Cao Cao. What are you two doing here? Issei asked his rival and the descendant of the hero of chaos, who just smirk and smile, respectively. I should be asking you that, Issei Hyodo, but I doubt you know the answer to that, Valley replied to the perverted dragon. Indeed, so, Valley, do you know what's going on? I should still be with Hades along with Leonardo and Georg, Cao Cao asked the silver-haired boy, who shrugged. I don't know, Cao Cao, don't ask me, Valley retorted, but Cao Cao was still smiling. Are you ignoring me, you bastards? Issei yelled, much to Rias' annoyance to his stupidity and hot-headedness. Hey, White One, Diedrich greeted his eternal rival. Red One greeted back the white heavenly dragon. Calm down, Issei, everyone here is on the same boat, Rias scolded in a calm tone. Hello, Switch Princess, Cao Cao greeted Rias, who blushed in embarrassment. I am not a Switch Princess. Rias yelled in a flustered manner, which caused everyone to chuckle at her behavior, except Baku who laughed loudly. Rias Tan. Come give your Oni-chan a big hug. Sirzex shouted in childish manner, which annoyed Grafia to no end. She proceeded to pinch his cheek. Sirzex-sama, this is no time to act like an idiot. Is this the image you want others to see you as? Grafia scolded sternly. OWWWWW. Grafia, that hurts. Sirzex yelped like the child he was, much to Rias' further embarrassment. Everyone, except Ophis, sweat dropped at the couple's antics. Sirzex. Why are you an idiot? Ajuka asked with a sigh upon seeing his friend's behavior. Falbium was just standing next to him, sleepy as usual. Hello, Issei, Valley, Cao Cao, Azazel greeted the three boys, with the last one being said cautiously to the Chinese boy. Hey, Azazel-sensei, greeted Issei cheerfully. Hello, Azazel, greeted Valley in a stoic manner. Hello, Governor of the Fallen Angels, how are you doing? Greeted Cao Cao with a smile that bordered on smugness. Doing okay, no thanks to you, Cao Cao, retorted Azazel, not liking the so-called hero one bit. Hey, Cao Cao just chuckled to the retort, like it didn't bother him. Hello, Valley, greeted Tobio, the Slashdog, to the White Dragon Emperor. Tobio was one of the best fighters of Grigori. He was also a Longinus user that had the one of the 13 Longinus, called Canis Lycon. The black-haired boy was Akino's cousin, since his grandmother was from the Himejima clan. Hello, Slashdog, Valley replied to one of the people that forced him to use Juggernaut Drive. Tobio was one of the people that the silver-haired boy wanted to fight, stupid battle maniac. Issei Hyodo, are you getting stronger? Sairaorg asked the boy that defeated him with the Cardinal Crimson transformation. Hi, Sairaorg-san, greeted the brown-haired boy to the Bael heir with respect. Hercule-chan. Georg-chan. Leonardo-kun. How are you doing? Jean greeted her comrades in a cheerful manner. Even after her defeat by Issei, she was still cheerful and sweet-sounding, despite being held captive by the Grigori. Hey, Jean, do you know what's going on? Asked Hercule and Georg to the carrier of the Maiden of Orleans. Leonardo was just silent. Nope. Jean replied in a blunt, but cheerful way. It's too bad that Siegfried is dead, Georg said solemnly. Jean agreed with him in a sad face. Yeah, Hercule said in a low tone. After his defeat by Sairaorg, he was no longer the loud brute he once was. Oka-sama, do you know what's going on? Kuno asked her mother curiously. The little fox girl was happy to see Issei, her crush, and his friends. She was wary of Cao Cao and the hero faction, since they kidnapped her mother. I don't, Kuno. I believe that the one who brought us here will be able to explain, but I don't know who that is, the beautiful Kyubi replied to her daughter. The sight of Kuno caused her to think about her husband's disappearance before her daughter's birth. Despite her attitude towards him, she was still in love with him. Was he okay? It brought pain to Yasaka's heart whether she harmed him, but she believed that it would help him overcome his dark emotions in the past. I guess I was wrong, thought the mother sorrowfully. Mother? Kuno thought worriedly when she saw the sad expression on her mother's face. Sona-tan. It's good to see you again. Sairaorg shouted before she lunged at her younger sister, getting her in a tight hug that caused the purple-eyed girl to blush nervously. Oh Oni-sama, please let go of me. People are watching. Sona cried desperately, which failed miserably as the Mahu Shouju didn't comply to her request. Nope. You're my cute little sister and I want to hug you. Well, have Yuri cuddling time. Sairaorg retorted with childlike stubbornness, which caused everyone in the younger sister's peerage to have a WTF expression on their faces. Xenovia, Asia, it's good to see you two again, Michael said to the two girls with a serene smile. It's an honor to meet you again, Michael-sama, greeted Xenovia and Asia with respect in their voices to the current god. Era, Michael Ni-san, are these two the girls that you gave permission to pray again? Hello. My name is Gabriel, it's nice to meet you too, the beautiful 12-winged seraph greeted with a gorgeous smile. Hi, Gabriel-sama. It's an honor to meet the most beautiful woman in heaven in person, greeted the two girls as they bowed to the seraph with deep respect. Hello, Michael-sama, Gabriel-sama, I am going to go to the kitchen to see if there's good food, Dulio told his superiors in a laid-back manner before going to the kitchen. Oh, Dulio, I wonder how Griselda handles him all the time, Michael wondered curiously. I think she has her ways, Ni-san, Gabriel replied to her brother with a smile. Hey, Xenovia, Asia, how are you guys doing? Irina greeted her fellow believers with a smile. I am doing fine, Irina, Xenovia told her longtime friend with a smile. Hello, Irina-san. Asia greeted the self-proclaimed angel warmly. Valerie. What are you doing here? Gasper asked his childhood friend worriedly, since he hadn't seen her for a long time. It's good to see you, Gasper. To answer your question, I have no idea why I am here, answered the Dampire with a broken smile on her face, due to her half-brother, Marius, forcing her to use the Sephiroth Grail too many times. She became broken in both heart and soul. Fortunately, she could still show emotions. This is before the events of Volume 16, so the DxD cast haven't found out that Valerie has the Sephiroth Grail yet, but they will in this story. Are you okay? Gasper asked with concern in his voice. This was the first time that he had saw Valerie look so broken, like a frail doll. Yes, replied Valerie, much to her heart's reluctance to say otherwise. She couldn't have her friend worry about her, despite needing help. Perhaps I should tell him once we calm down, Valerie suggested to herself. Yes, that was what she would do. Once everyone had calmed down, she would tell Gasper about her dilemma. Hello, Gasper Vladdy. My name is Elmenhilda Galstein, it's nice to meet you. Elmenhilda greeted the crossdresser with a smile that screamed arrogance. The smile she had on was clearly fake, as if she viewed Gasper as nothing more than low-life trash. Hello. Greeted Gasper to the small vampire. I need to talk to you about the problems our kind have back at the homeland. It concerns Valerie Tepes next to you, Elmenhilda told the Dampire. What? What does Valerie have to do with any of the problems that your homeland has? Gasper asked the small, corpse-like girl. I'll tell you once I meet with your master, Rias Gremory. For now, we need to find out why we were teleported here, Elmenhilda told the cross-dressing boy, who reluctantly agreed. What does she mean that these problems concern Valerie? Thought Gasper worriedly. He wanted to ask Elmenhilda for more details, but they need to find out why they were here first. Hello, Nei-san, Kaneko greeted her older sister. Hello, Sharon, how are things with you? Greeted Kuroka playfully. Things are well, Nei-san, Kaneko replied stoically. That's good, Kuroka said in a serene manner. However, that happy mood went away when she saw Yasaka, who also looked at her. Both of them gave each other stern glares while walking towards one another, until they were standing about a foot away from each other. Kuroka, Yasaka greeted the black-haired Nekosho with indifference. Yasaka. Kuroka greeted back to the Kyubi leader with resentment in her voice. It was this woman that separated her beloved older cousin, her Kura-ni, from her and her mother when she needed him the most. Why did Yasaka still hate her and her mother? She had developed romantic feelings for him from the times he spent with her. He promised that he would help her, but he couldn't. Kuroka believed that it was because of Yasaka that Kurama couldn't help her. So the black-haired beauty hated the woman for that. She could still remember that time when she came to Kyoto, years after the death of her mother, to ask for Kurama to help Sharon, his daughter, when the white-haired girl was about to be executed by devils after she killed her asshole of a master, but she realized that he had disappeared. The Nekomata race was on the brink of extinction at that time due to members of the three factions hunting them down due to fear of senjutsu, and from what Kuroka did, she still hadn't told Sharon that Kurama was her father who mated their mother, but she wouldn't do that, not just yet. How are you doing these days? Yasaka asked with indifference still in her voice. She also held some resentment towards Kuroka and her mother, Kurahime, for trying to take her husband away, but she eventually got over it. Yasaka did try to help the Nekomata race, but by the time she actually heard of their genocide, most of them were hunted down and killed by devils. With only a few survivors going into hiding, she felt regret and depression for being unable to help her husband's other blood-related race, which she only recovered from thanks to her daughter. However, the fact that she wasn't able to do anything to help out the Nekomata gnawed at her consciousness to this day. She hoped that she could remedy the strained relationship between devils and yokai by having peace talks. Thus her meeting with Sairaorg after the Kyuubi leader's rescue from the hero faction. I still need to talk to the devils about the near extinction of the Nekomata. Though Yasaka solemnly, it was still of a very important matter to be concerned about. It was her way of atonement for her inability to save the Nekomata, where she hoped that she could find and save what was left of the feline race. Yasaka hoped that it could remedy the strained relationship between her and Kuroka. It was what her husband would want. I was doing fine, until I saw your face here. Kuroka spat venomously, causing Yasaka to flinch internally. The Kyuubi leader knew that the Nekosho had every right to be angry at her, but she wasn't going to back down when it concerned her husband. Both women had strong feelings for Kurama, and they weren't going to like each other for that. Kuroka ne-san. Kaneko thought with surprise on her face. This was practically the first time she saw her big sister be truly angry at someone, especially at someone like the Kyuubi leader. Was there bad blood between the two? Kuroka-san. Her comrades from the Valley team were also bewildered at Kuroka's behavior. They had never seen Kuroka this angry at someone before. Oka-sama. Kuno was shocked at the way her mother was behaving. She knew Kuroka from the past due to seeing her as a teenager once, but her mother at that time ordered her to get back inside their home after she mentioned that she saw a portrait of someone that looked very similar to the black-haired Nekosho. Why were they at each other's throats? That was the question that Kuno was thinking. I know that everyone is having their own conversations, but does anyone know why we're here? Office asks everyone, which caused them to get back to the current situation at hand. Now that they thought of it, why were they here? Who, or what, brought them to this room? Everyone was silent, until a swirling vortex suddenly appeared in the middle of the room. Everyone tensed when they saw a foot coming out of it. Seconds passed until a person came out of it. Once the person stepped out of the vortex, it vanished. Everybody got a good look at the stranger, who was weird in every way. It was a tall, old man that looked tired, as if he didn't get enough sleep. He had strange clothing, which consisted of a white kimono that had 6 magatama on the collar. He had a necklace that was also composed of 6 magatama. On his back was a strange black staff. He had spiky, shoulder-length, pale red hair with a chin-length braid going down from his left ear. He even sported a goatee that went to his waist. The strangest of things about the monk's appearance was that he had horn-like protrusions coming out of his head, with eyes that had a ringed pattern. Overall, he looked like your strange average old guy. What caused everyone, including Ophis, to tense was the massive amount of power that was radiating off the old man. It was absolutely monstrous. This power was practically equal to or even greater than that of Great Reds. Some of the weaker members in the room couldn't stand up straight, resulting in them kneeling on the floor. No doubt that this awesome being was the one who brought them here. Oh, sorry about that. I forgot to keep my power in check, the strange man said before the massive pressure on everyone was gone, causing those who were kneeling to stand back up. Hello, everyone, my name is Hagoromo Otsutsuki, and I have brought you all here to this dimension for a special occasion. Think of it as something to learn from. Hagoromo introduced himself with a smile. The situation was still tense until Sairaorg spoke to the powerful man. Hello, Otsutsuki Dono. What is this thing that you want us to do? Sairaorg asked him politely. Hagoromo smiled, and proceeded to answer his question. Ah, yes, The reason why I brought you all here is because I want you all to read a book that pertains events about what will happen if the main character in it were to come back to your home dimension after so many years had passed since he left. This main character does exists, but hell come to your home dimension after you finish this book. Due to spending a few more days than what he intended to in the dimension that he lived in for a very long time. A dimension that is completely different and far away from yours. Time in the dimension he's in moves much faster your dimension's time. I can assure you that he will come to your dimension once he finishes spending those days, like hell do in the first chapter of this book that you'll read, but much earlier. It's like the future, the old man explained to them, who had their eyes widened at the information, especially Yasaka and Kuroka, a dimension that was completely different from their own. The main character of the book being from their dimension who left to go to a new one. This would be interesting. Could it be? Yasaka and Kuroka thought with shock on their faces, if the main character was Kurama, then. Don't worry too much. Everything that you don't know will be answered in this book. All of your questions will be satisfied. Who knows? This character might be someone you cherish, Hagoromo explained, causing everyone to calm down from the information. It would be interesting to see who this main character was. I don't have much time left since I need to go back to my home dimension. If that's all, I'll take my leave. Oh, and don't worry about the outside world. Time outside has stopped the moment all of you have been teleported here. And it'll resume once you finish this book, the old man told them before materializing the aforementioned book. And handing it to Michael, who thanked the powerful Rakuto Sennin. Before going back to the Narutoverse, he turned to Yasaka and Kuroka. Yasaka-san, Kuroka-san, I would advise you two to listen to the story very attentively. It will answer all your questions about your loved one, explained Hagoromo cryptically before walking through a vortex that he created. I hope that you two get to this dimension eventually after they finish this story. Naruto and Kurama. People missed you too, especially you, Kurama, thought the old man with a serene smile before he went back to his home dimension, with the vortex vanishing after his whole body stepped in. Seconds passed after Hagoromo's departure, with Yasaka and Kuroka feeling confused yet anxious about the book. It must be him, I got to listen to this. Thought the two beautiful yokai with determination in their eyes. Was Kurama coming back to the two of them? They had to know. Everyone proceeded to gather around Michael, while sitting on the love seats and sofas that were nearby. Issei, as usual, had his harem close to him, which consisted of Rias, Akano, Asia, Kaneko, Ravel, Irina, Zenovia, and strangely Tsubasa. Rosweiss and Kiba were standing close to them, with Ophis sitting on a love seat that was far away from them, but close to the group of people. Kuno was sitting on her mother's lap, close to Issei's position. Once everyone had settled down, Michael proceeded to ask if someone would like to read first. So, who would like to read the first chapter? Michael asked kindly. Sairaorg raised her hand. I'll read first, Michael Tan. Sairaorg said in a cheerful voice. Michael gave the book to her, in which she read the title, Yukai no Biku. That means Shadow of the Yukai, a strange, but interesting title, Ajuka commented, so this book was centered around yokai. Sairaorg thought it was a good title before proceeding to read. Chapter 1 Prologue. Sairaorg said before reading the first chapter. You coward. Get back here. Roared a fox with 9 tails. It was chasing another of its kind, with 8 tails, throughout the palace halls. After Sairaorg read the first sentence, the plasma TV came to life, showing a real live video of the 2 foxes running around, with the 9 tails chasing the 8 tails. Okawa-sama, is that you? Kuno acts in shock upon seeing the 9-tailed fox chasing the 8-tailed one. Why yes, Kuno, that was me in the past, Yasaka said to her daughter with wide eyes. That was the day when her husband disappeared. She might be able to find how he had disappeared that day. Kuroka was suspicious of Yasaka's expression, since she vaguely recognized 8-tailed fox from the video. The 8 tails dashed and weaved through the corridor in haste with a dreadful expression. It was running for its life, even though it was a coward of sort. None could argue that it was very agile on its feet. No one within the palace could match its speed, including its wife. That's true. That one is faster than anyone there, Searzex commented upon seeing the 8-tailed fox's speed. The creature did a zigzag, avoiding several other yokai that were trying to stop it on her orders. The fox then jumped on top of their heads after gracefully navigating through the space between their extended limbs. It used their heads as a stepping stone before going over the high wall. The second fox landed on top of the wall a minute later and scanned the area beyond the palace, realizing her husband was long gone. Only good at running away, she murmured and sighed before returning back to the central palace again. Her husband would return eventually as he always did. There was nowhere else he could go. and she had a more important matter she must attend, like preventing herself from throwing up due to morning sickness. That was when I was still pregnant with Kuno, Yasaka said, remembering her pregnancy with her daughter. The escapee kept on running, passing through several of the empty streets of Kyoto before finally starting to drop its speed. It felt that it had gotten far enough, thus beginning the transformation into its human form. While examining the surroundings, he revealed himself to have golden blonde hair with a matching set of eyes, 3 whisker marks adorning both sides of his cheek as he puffed up and exhaled. Kura ni, Kurama-kun, thought Yasaka and Kuroka upon seeing the 8-tailed man. They felt a pang in their hearts from seeing him after so long. So that's Yasaka-chan's husband, he's cute, Sairaorg commented, which earned hard glares from the 2 Yukai women. Everyone's sweat dropped at the Mahu Shouju's comment, while Kuno and Kaneko got curious looks on their faces from seeing the 2 women's reactions. He leaned forward against the railing that was erected to prevent people from falling into the lake. He watched the undisturbed water silently in the secluded park. It was completely dark out and only the moonlight reflected off the lake's surface. Fucking bitch. He cursed at his own reflection while rubbing the bruises that covered his body. Just because she has more tails than me, she thinks she owned me. No one tells me what to do. I will show her who the boss is. Kurama-kun, said Yasaka sadly. She felt very guilty from harming him all the time. But that was the only way to get him to listen to her. Her husband refused to listen to her unless she could defeat him in a fight due to his beliefs that only the strong should rule, forcing her to hurt him to get him to listen. She regretted every time she had to hurt him, but she had no choice. I am sorry, husband, Yasaka thought remorsefully. Okawa-sama. Kuno was shocked upon hearing the sad voice of her mother. Who was this man on the screen? Yasaka, you bitch. Kuroka thought angrily upon seeing the bruises on Kurama's body. When she heard Yasaka's sad voice, it pissed her off. It was her fault that drove Kurama away. Why was she feeling sad? He had a total of 8 tails and was still waiting to acquire the last one. His mate's power had exceeded his own, and he didn't like that one bit. As a creature of pride and as well as being male, he wanted to be on top and acquire more mates, a harem of sort, but unfortunately, he could not go against her as she pummeled him around the room for even hinting something like that. Under that humble and polite personality of her, which she displayed for the public, existed a demon. He felt just like a prisoner where she was the warden. Kurama. Yasaka was feeling even more guilty and sad upon realizing that he took her beatings as something that she liked to do, but she hated doing it to him. However, she didn't had much choice. She was forced to hurt him since it was the only way to get him to listen to her. She didn't want him to get more mates, but he refused to listen to her. Forcing her to hurt him to get him to listen to her and her objections to it. She felt emotional pain and remorse for having to harm him every time, but she had no choice. She wanted to change his mind, to get him away from the dark path he was taking, but it was for naught, causing Yasaka to feel anguish for all the beatings she dealt towards the man she still had strong feelings for. I am sorry for making you feel that way, Yasaka thought remorsefully. Kuroka wanted to slap the Kyuubi, but she restrained herself. Now wasn't the time to blow up on her face. Then why don't you? A voice asked from the side. Startled, his slit eyes snapped towards it. The demonic fox was sure he was completely alone seconds ago. The person he saw was a tall and pale-skinned man with deep wrinkles to show his age. The elderly man had spiky, shoulder-length, pale red hair, with a chin-length braid hanging in front of his left ear as well as sporting a goatee which tapered down to his waist. Horn-like protrusions on his forehead with ringed patterns for eyes. He wore a white, full-length kimono with a pattern of 6 black magatama around a high collar along with a necklace which was also made up of 6 black magatama. A strange black staff was secured to his back, and he was sitting on a bench with 2 hands pressed against his knee as if they were to hold his weary body up. He looked very tired. Something appeared to be off about him, giving the Yukai pause. It's Hagoromo Dono, Michael said with shock. Yasaka and Kuroka were also shocked upon seeing the old man. The one who brought them here was also the one who took Kurama away. They were so confused. Who are you? The fox asked after immediately placing the elderly man as an abnormal being from the appearance alone. Had never seen such a being before, but there was a first time for everything. Could it be a devil as they tend to have numerous abilities and appearances? The fox had no answer to that. Shouldn't you introduce yourself first before asking another person's name? The elderly man replied. I am Kurama, the great Kyuubi, so tell me who you are, Kurama demanded. Arrogant, isn't he? Thought everyone in the room, except Yasaka and Kuroka, since they already knew that. Kyuubi. Ah yes, but you're still missing one more to make it 9, the man said as he analyzed the creature before nodding approvingly. It was as if he had found what he was seeking for. Hagoromo Otsutsuki, the sage of six paths. I will get my ninth tail. It's only a matter of time. In a few hundred years, nobody would challenge my powers. Ahahaha. Kurama retorted before laughing hysterically, imagining the destruction he would wreak upon those that challenged him. Hagoromo stroked his beard a little with a free hand. He was in thought, allowing the young man to continue in his delusional fantasy. Okay. Azazel commented on Kurama's behavior with a sweat drop. Everybody else thought that Kurama was being stupid with that laugh. After Kurama stopped being an idiot, Hagoromo finally spoke up. I am looking for a vessel. If you could help me in that regard, I am sure I can shorten the time you needed to get your final tail. I will also give you something more as a bonus, Kurama. Hagoromo offered as the said person narrowed his menacing eyes at the man. So, Hagoromo Dono was the one who helped Kurama-san get his last tail and become more powerful, Gabriel commented. Indeed, Sairaorg agreed with her rival. Kurama was suspicious, but his desire for power overwhelmed his own vigilance. You can show me, Kurama demanded. Hagoromo nodded. He took the strange staff from his back and tapped the airspace to his side. The air distorted around the impact point, and black lines appeared before spiraling like a whirlpool into some kind of dark portal. Kurama stepped back a little after sensing the rift in space. He had seen many strange things in his life, but never something like this. The portal pulsed with strange and unknown energy that seemed to fill the air with malicious intentions. If you accept, then follow me, as you will be the last of the 9. I can say that you will be the strongest and greatest of them all. However, you will disappear from here for a little while, and one day you will meet the child of prophecy. You will help him accomplish his goals and you will be given a chance to return here again. Hagoromo hinted as Kurama's eyes narrowed more. It was really like selling your soul for power kind of deal, but Kurama wanted to powers above all else. So the 9? Valley asked curiously. I believe that Hagoromo-sama will explain it right now. Valley, Tobio told the silver-haired boy, who shrugged. What are the 9? The 9 will be known as Biju, each having the ability to remodel a country and landscape with just a flick of one of their tails. I need them to contain a certain being's energy. They are Shukaku the Ichibi, Matabi the Nibi, Isobu the Sanbi, Son Goku the Yanbi, Kakuo the Gobi, Seiken the Rokubi, Chomei the Nanabi, Gyuki the Hachibi, and finally you, if you choose to accept, will be Kurama the Kyubi, Hagoromo answered truthfully. What? Everybody shouted with shock in their wide eyes. 9 beings that could easily destroy a country in an instant with just a flick of one of their tails. And Kurama will be the strongest. That was very terrifying. How? Issei asked with fear in his voice. He had to boost the power that he borrowed from Great Red to destroy Jabberwocky, and that took a lot of effort. I don't know, Issei, Ria said in shock to her true love. So, Kurama-sama will be the strongest out of those 9, Searzek said cautiously. Even he didn't have the power to destroy a country in an instant. That would take quite a lot of time to do that. Indeed, I have a feeling that Kurama-sama will be very powerful after this, Ajuka said warily. I will have 9 tails? The strongest? Kurama asks. Hagoromo nodded to confirm. However, I will need to seal your memory of this place along with your body until such time an event will come to pass, he added with some thoughts, seeing how Kurama was quite arrogant, and that might be a bad thing if he allowed it to roam freely with that kind of behavior. Let's do it then. Kurama howled decidedly. The sage stroked his beard and entered the portal first to show that it was safe. It was soon followed by the demon fox without any hesitation. Kurama-kun, Kura ni, whispered Yasaka and Kuroka sadly. The Kyubi leader was sad that he was still obsessed with power. It broke her heart when she couldn't change his mind. She thought she could by telling him that she was pregnant with their daughter, but she didn't have the chance. Both of them realized that he left his home dimension for power, and that caused them to become sad at the thought. As the sage had promised, all 9 creatures he collected from different worlds were given a piece of Jubies. The 10 tails, powers, an. Kurama was given half of the Jubies' power. Their memories were sealed along with their body, and they were giving a new immature one, completely made purely of chakra. All of the Biju would need to grow into it, and after the task was done, Hagoromo's body failed him and he passed away. It was not before he told his creations that they would all be together again even if they went their separate ways. It was as if he knew what was to come far into the future. So his original body and memories were sealed away, and he was given a new body, Arthur commented from what he heard. Yes, but this new body is made completely of chakra, Kaneko said with shock. That dimension had chakra as its main energy. Here, only certain yokai could use chakra, and with it, senjutsu. To think that there was a dimension that had everyone use chakra, including humans. Hagoromo-sama passed away, though. How was he able to appear before us then? Rossweiss asked curiously. It must have been his spirit, speculated Cao Cao. The nine showed themselves from time to time, allowing the humans of the world to witness their might and powers. At first, they were together, having a close relationship with one another, but fragmented pieces of their former personality resurfaced, and they slowly drifted apart from a heated philosophical disagreement. Eventually, they parted way just like their creator hinted long ago. Kurama, for his own reason, believed that their strength lies in the number of tails they held. He had 9, so he was the strongest. Pride and hubris soon followed. Kurama-sama is still prideful, even in his new form, Searzex commented. Yes, but look at his size, he's bigger than most of the mountains there. Gasper said with awe and fear in his voice. Everyone agreed with Gasper's comment. Kurama was much bigger than even his fellow Biju. Kurama, Yasaka and Kuroka were shocked at the Kyuubi's size. They also agreed that Kurama was a monster in sheer size and power. Over the centuries, countless inhabitants of the elemental nations failed to regard the tailed beasts as sapient individuals, treating them with great disdain and fear. Because of the immense power each of creatures wielded, the shinobi sought out the tailed beasts as tools and weapons to be controlled. It was a sentiment they as a whole detested, but knew that it was necessary. Kurama was the last to be sealed away inside a human sacrifice known as the jinchuriki. It was angry, filled with malice, of being imprisoned like some sort of prize. No one wants to be treated as some sort of tool, Elmenhilda commented, only with no arrogance in her voice. Yasaka and Kuroka felt angry to see Kurama locked inside someone like a prisoner, but there was nothing that they could do about it. Mito Uzumaki was the first of its jailer, then Kushina Uzumaki after the first reached her end. Its third jailer was one called Naruto Uzumaki. Kurama wondered why the blonde boy looked familiar with his bright blonde hair and 3 whisker marks. However, the pair of blue eyes was wrong in its opinion, but it didn't know exactly why. No one truly knew, not even the great sage, that a jinchuriki, who was giving birth, would give her child some of the Biju's original traits. Thus, Naruto was like an incarnation of Kurama's original form. Was that a coincidence? Kurama-sama is right. Naruto-san does look like his original self, Georg commented. Naruto-san looks just like him, Yasaka whispered in shock from the resemblance of the two. Watching the orphaned boy being shunned by all in the village of his birth, Kurama decided to use Naruto's dependence on its power to gain control over him and break free from its cage. However, through the seemingly endless struggle, Kurama's attitude toward the blonde soon began to change. Prior to the Fourth Shinobi World War, it was then the fox showed respect to the blonde as if it was showing it to itself. It seems like his attitude has changed for the better, if only a little. Everyone agreed with Michael's comment. Kurama was becoming less arrogant, and he was treating his jinchuriki with respect. Just like Hagoromo had stated those centuries before, the 9 were united once more in a single body to defeat powerful enemies that sought to erase everyone from existence, and they finally brought forth the much-desired peace. After a great and costly battle, Naruto Uzumaki emerged victorious. It was against all odds, but with the help of the 9, he did the impossible, and Hagoromo Otsutsuki appeared before them once more. There's Hagoromo-sama, Kiba said, that must have been his spirit. Thank you. This is how it should be. I am glad you all have completed the task I foresaw those centuries ago. I saw the end if you were not here to prevent it. As such, you have my deepest gratitude. I will return you back to your home, the place where you belonged originally, like I've promised all those years ago, Hagoromo said and explained that he took them from their home even though they did not remember. He was desperately searching for a way to change the dark future in his vision. But isn't thousands of years had already passed? Time is relative and flows differently. Shusaku, you might have experienced thousands years here, but I will send you back to the same time you left. Maybe a year or 2 later, you will regain your original form along with newfound abilities as promised. I can also erase your memories of the elemental nations if you so desire, Hagoromo offered. The first 8 beasts accepted and wanted to return to the life they would know again. Some of them choose to remove the memory of the elemental nations along with all the pain they suffered during their unjust imprisonment. Those 8 Biju were also from different dimensions, Azazel commented. It would make sense for Hagoromo to send them back to their home dimensions with their newfound powers. They wanted to forget the pain that they endured during their time there in Hagoromo's home dimension, so the old man would do that for them. Kurama was hesitant to leave the blonde as if he was now part of his life, however. Hey Kurama, we make a great team, didn't we? Naruto asks. Kurama nodded in agreement. It felt that true powers came from the strength of characters and the will to make the impossible possible. Throughout their struggles, it had its moment of doubt, but Naruto had showed none of that. The boy, who was shunned most of his life, would climb over all the challenges and prove to those that did not believe that he would not back down from his belief. Naruto-san. He's practically the same as Kurama-kun. Yasaka thought in awe. Here was a boy that was practically like Kurama, and he was able to overcome all obstacles in his path. She respected Naruto for that. She hoped that both of them would come back soon. Kuroka also shared her thoughts, even though they still had animosity toward each other. The Jubi was powerful, exceeding its own power, but still lost to their teamwork in the end. Madara and Kagaya, a god and goddess possibly, were no different. They were all defeated, one after another, as Hagoromo had foreseen in another possible and grimmer timeline. Child of prophecy, Kurama muttered as Naruto grinned proudly. He has such a deep, sinister voice, Valerie commented with fear and awe. Ah, so that's how it is, Hagoromo thought, looking at Naruto. The boy's appearance was like the humanoid Kurama, and he knew then that the Kyuubi would have a hand in bringing forth the boy's existence and thus saving the future. Hagoromo simply smiled and returned the rest of the 8 beasts back to their own world, allowing Naruto and Kurama some time to discuss where they would go from here onward. The sage felt completely drained afterwards, but kept his composure. He wasn't sure if there was enough powers in him to send the last one back. I think I will stay here for a while, Kurama finally requested. Kurama, thought Yasaka and Kuroka sadly. He didn't want to go back to their home dimension for a while. They missed him. The sage nodded, understanding the Kyuubi's reason. Naruto couldn't be happier that it chose to stay behind with him. Kurama was then resealed back into Naruto as it felt much more comfortable in there. Furthermore, as the sage had also hinted, Kurama still needed to help the blonde with the corruptive nature of all the tailed beast's chakra that were now coursing through his inner pathways. This time, however, Kurama wasn't being tied down or locked in a cage. So Naruto-san has the chakra of all the tailed beasts inside him. I wonder how powerful he is, Michael whispered. Very well. Come back here when you are ready to return, Hagoromo said. He drew up the seal before continuing to speak. This seal will activate upon your blood, Naruto. It will open a portal, but only one time. You or your children will be the one to send Kurama back to his home one day. It will also return your original memory and body as well, Kurama. That means that Kurama can come home one day, thought Yasaka and Kuroka happily. They hope he could come back soon. Is that another thing you saw? Naruto asked curiously, but Hagoromo shook his head. He felt that he was fading away as he channeled the last of his energy into the time-space seal. It should be good for one being to pass through, and hopefully that was enough. I can see nothing now, so I cannot say what is to come, but make it a good one, Naruto and Kurama, Hagoromo said with a wide smile before fading away right before the two. Are you crying? Naruto asked, hearing the whimpering noise in his mindscape. Shut up, brat. I am not crying. Just something in my eyes, damn dusts, Kurama growled in denial as Naruto rolled his eyes and chuckled. So Kura-tan does have a soft side to him, Sairaorg giggled, with everyone chuckling at that. I am becoming more interested in you too, Naru-tan and Kura-tan, the Mahu Shouju thought happily. Right. Let's return home and start rebuilding. Naruto roared, jogging back to the devastated hidden village of Leafs and meeting up with the rest of the Allies' forces along the way. The costly war was over and the future would be something they would make for themselves. An undisclosed amount of time later, stop breaking things. If you want to help, stay put and don't touch anything. One of the workers scolded the blonde angrily. Naruto frowned as he sat back down on the wooden bench, watching the busy bodies crowding the street again. They were rebuilding Hidden Village of the Leaf again after all the crap they had to go through. A couple of years had passed since the last battle, and each village started to fight with words rather than swords and jutsus. Diplomacy was the new path, but even so, each cage still kept their armed forces for the safety of their home. Fortunately, after seeing the devastation the last war had wreaked, they were more inclined to sit down and cooperate towards a beneficial and mutual goal. That's good, at least they're no longer at war with each other, Sairaorg commented. Everybody agreed with that statement. War was harsh on everyone. I am so darn useless now, Naruto shouted in anger as he leaned against the tree further away from town. A few trees around was tore apart in his frustration. Peace was incredibly boring to him. The blonde was only good for one thing, and he could only show it in battle. Now that there were no conflicts going on, he was out of a job and would be for a long time with the ways things were heading. It wasn't a bad thing, but it was bad for most of the shinobi, who only knew how to kill. It must be their way of living, Tobio said solemnly. They must have been raised that way, Valley replied. In addition, by absorbing part of each tailed beast into himself had made his own natural physical prowess went beyond normal, demonstrated by shattered ground and boulders around him. He didn't use any chakra in those strikes, but they were incredibly devastating nonetheless. Because of that, whenever he tried to help out in town, It usually ended badly and he had to pay for compensation. Gulp. Azazel swallowed fearfully, he wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of Naruto's hits. Get out of here. Stop making a mess. Tsunade shouted at him for breaking more things on accidents. Naruto didn't know what to do now, he was kind of lost, not knowing where to go with his life. You should settle down and have some kits. Kurama suggested. The blonde rolled his blue eyes at the suggestion, he exhaled afterward with some lamentations. Everyone he knew had moved on, but he remained the same goofy idiot, of the 3 young heroes from the last war. Sasuke ran off somewhere as he didn't wait to stay in the village that brought him so much pain and suffering. Sakura ran off after the raven-haired boy. Where the duo went, Naruto didn't know, but he hoped they were happier than him. Maybe you're right, pieces kind of suck, nothing good happening right now, I want to fight again in awesome battle. Naruto shouted loudly, but no one was around to hear it, although everyone wanted it after all the struggle. Naruto was born and lived in a rather turbulent time and he felt a bit unneeded now. Acknowledgement he finally got, but it felt hollowed. Naruto-san. Yasaka thought with worry on her face. She saw that Naruto was finally accepted into his village, but he looked empty. Want me to go out and start destroying the villages so they could ask you for help? Kurama asked dryly. Really? Can you do that? I was joking, Baka. Tisk, me too, Naruto said the last part very softly. Maybe I should go on a self-searching journey like the Teme, but where to? Naruto asked before remembering something about a promise from a few years back by a certain sage. Oh, I know. Naruto snapped his finger. Let's go to your home and see what it is like, maybe they need our help. Yes. Yasaka and Kuroka thought happily, they could now see them when they come back to their dimension. Kurama blinked as it had no memories of that place, and currently had no desire of return. It was totally contented with its lifestyle, sleeping days in and out without a single care in the world while everyone still feared it. It was the only Biju left in the whole elemental nations, and it liked to stay that way. No thanks. Kurama refused flatly. Common, furball. Stop being lazy and let's go. Naruto insisted and disappeared in an orange flash before Kurama could reply. He re-emerged back to the spot where Hagoromo last stood. The seal was still there as Naruto examined over it to make sure. He was getting very good at fuinjutsu, the sealing arts, but this was another level altogether. He would not be able to reproduce it without some more extensive training, but he believed he could do it eventually. Sealing techniques, interesting, said Azazel with awe in his eyes. I am not going. Leave me alone. Kurama growled angrily, it didn't care what it was before and had no illusion of returning to that. Naruto ignored Kurama and slashed one of his fingers before rubbing the lifeblood onto the seal. The black marking glowed and twirled on the surface of the rock, forming a spiraling portal. Ah, you idiot. He said it will only open one time only. The fox roared furiously, seeing how its only way home was used up by the idiot. True, it didn't want to return home right now, but this was the only chance and it never knows when it would change its mind. Oh, Naruto mumbled apologetically, had forgotten about that part. Damn it, we have no choice now. Nice one, Baka. Baka. They're going back to our dimension, Gabriel said. Yasaka and Kuroka were happy, since they could reunite with Kurama and Naruto. Alright, calm down, I am sorry, so stop insulting me, Naruto said. Feeling like there was nothing here for him to do, he would return one day again once he figured out how the seal worked to replicate it. Without any further thoughts, Naruto walked into the portal with Kurama still within him. Naruto had made another assumption that the seal could differentiate between the two entities. It did not, as Hagoromo never thought that Naruto would enter it along with Kurama. The Yukai's original memory is added to the blonde's instead. He held his head in pain as he continued to drift along the spiraling path of the portal. Visions and flashes were not his own invaded his mind before he emerged out from the other side. He thrashed around the ground, trying to get rid of the painful headache in whatever way he could. What? Everyone shouted in shock. Yasaka and Kuroka were especially worried since this might have adverse effects on Naruto and Kurama. Ah, shit. My head. It hurts. Fuck. Naruto shouted, cursed, rolling around on the pavement. After more thrashings about, he stood up and leaned over the nearby railing, coughing and huffing heavily. He noticed one of his blue eyes was golden from the water surface, heterochromia. His right eye was golden in color while the left was bluish, but other than that, everything seemed normal. Kurama's original form and his own had merged during the transition. So Naruto-sama and Kurama-sama's original self are now one and the same, Michael said with shock. Yasaka and Kuroka were surprised from this. That would mean that Naruto was now Kurama in appearance, personality, and memories. So Naruto-san is now Kurama-kun, Kura-ni, thought Yasaka and Kuroka. They were now truly worried for Naruto. Kurama, was he okay and the same person as before? They hoped that they could help him once they meet him. Hey, brat, how are you feeling? Didn't know it hurts that much. I am glad it wasn't me. Kurama called out from the mindscape. Kurama felt exactly the same as before with no extra memory or limbs, so he assumed they went to Naruto instead. The theory was solidified as he saw the blonde's eyes in the reflection. Who are you calling a brat? I am the great Kyuubi. Oh wait, Naruto said, but stopped abruptly. He face-palmed and tried to clear his mind from the conflicting set of memories. He remembered everything up the point he accepted Hagoromo's offer. Was that him? He assumed so, but he still distinctively remembered himself as Naruto, as that particular set of memory was newer. Who am I? He mumbled a little before nodding, clearing his mind from all doubts. His blue and golden eyes blinked. I am Naruto. Now, where's that fucking bitch? I am going to smack her around to show which one of us is stronger. Mwahahaha. He called out and ran back home while laughing hysterically as if it was the most normal thing to do. Okay. Azazel commented with a sweat drop. Naruto, Kurama was the same as he was before he left with Hagoromo. The ground cracked on each of his step as he was far stronger than he ever was. Where are we? What is this place? Kurama thought, seeing through Naruto's eyes. He also noticed the blonde was swearing a lot as well. He simply shrugged and started dozing off. He didn't seem to care one way or another. And that's the end of the chapter, Sairaorg said with shock. If what the ending of this chapter was true, Naruto and Kurama's old self were now one and the same. Yasaka and Kuroka were aware of this, since Naruto was practically Kurama now, so they were happy to see him again. But would he feel the same? That was something that bothered the two Yukai women. Oka-sama, was that Oto-sama? Kuno asked her mother curiously. Yes, Kuno, Kurama-kun, or actually Naruto-san, is your father. Yasaka replied to her daughter, whose eyes widened in shock and happiness. That meant that Naruto was going to meet her for the first time. The little girl wanted to meet her father, so she was happy to see that he was coming home. However, what Naruto said worried Yasaka, since he didn't know that Kuno was his daughter. He was going to be angry if Kuno was to say that she was his daughter, since he would believe that she had an affair with someone else. Kuroka heard that with a frown, but didn't interrupt the mother and daughter. The black-haired Nekosho was going to meet Naruto Kurama once he comes home, and then she would tell him that Sharon was his daughter. She wasn't going to let that fox bitch get in her way of reuniting with her cousin, her chosen one. How about we talk about this later? Yasaka asked her daughter, who nodded. The little girl was happy that she was going to meet her father. Yasaka, however, was worried about their eventual meeting. That man, it was him from before, Rosweiss thought angrily. Unknown to the others, Naruto, Kurama and Rosweiss did meet in the past. During the latter's training as a Valkyrie, he used to tease her since she didn't have a boyfriend, which caused her to hate him, causing a love-hate relationship between the two. They would only know each other for a few days before he had a one-night stand with her. Mostly to get back at his wife. After said one-night stand, he left Rosweiss, causing the silver-haired girl to hold a grudge on him, and also to lament her loss of purity. That would explain why she would cry every time someone was to tease her about her not having a boyfriend. However, she was feeling a bit depressed and jealous that Naruto Kurama had a wife. She believed that they had something special. Despite his teasing, no matter, she would confront him about their past relationship when he comes back to their home dimension. So, who wants to read the next chapter? Sairaorg asks. I will, Sairaorg-san, Yasaka said, taking the book from Sairaorg. Naruto-tan sure is handsome. I wonder what will happen to him next, Sairaorg whispered to herself. Found you. A child fox called out. He appeared to be 12 years of age. Looks can be deceiving with their race as they matured at different rates, however. Who's that kid? Issei asked curiously. I think we'll find out, Azazel replied to the perverted boy. It's Kurama-kun, Yasaka thought before she continued reading. He pulled away the foliage cover to reveal another of his kind. It was a female with 3 golden tails wrapped around her lower body like a belt. She also appeared to be around his age. They were playing hide and seek, and he was it. A bright smile crept across his face as his golden irises focused upon the girl. He swished his 4 tails back and forth behind him proudly. Even though their kinds can transform into a true Kyuubi in their full released state with complete set of 9 tails, the number they had in their sealed state determined how powerful they were. So, the number of tails that a Kyuubi has in their sealed form determines their strength. Interesting, Ajuka commented. That's me when I was a child, but that was also the day when Yasaka thought sadly when she remembered the death of Kurama's father. Is that Kura ni? Kuroka thought when she saw the boy. Am I first? She asked cutely. Ah, she's so cute. Sairaorg said with a giggle. Some of the group agreed with the Leviathan's comment, as they also found the girl to be adorable. He nodded with a smile. Why do you always find me first? The girl asked with a pout. She was sure that she was well hidden during all the participated games, but she was always the first to be found whenever he was it. It had happened way too often to be a mere coincidence. Is that Okawa-sama and Oto-sama? Kuno thought curiously when she saw the boy and girl, with the girl looking very similar to her. The boy simply grinned at her question, turning around with his arms wrapped around the back of his head and playfully kicking some dirt in front. Yasaka-chan. I will always find you wherever you are, it's a promise, he announced without facing her and ran off to find the rest. A red tint covered both of her cheeks, but they were missed entirely by the boy. Maybe he was blushing as well and couldn't gather enough courage to face her when announcing that. That sentence shocked everyone, except Yasaka and Office. That little girl was Yasaka when she was a child. Then that boy must had been. Mother, was that you when you were little? Kuno asked the Kyuubi leader. Yes, Kuno, that girl was me when I was still a child. That boy that you saw was your father, Yasaka told her daughter, which shocked her and some of the group. So that means that boy was Kura ni. We must be seeing his past with Yasaka, Kuroka thought with hidden shock, yet she was excited to know about her older cousin's past. So, I am seeing his past right now, Rosweiss thought. She was able to retain her composure, despite the shock she felt inside. Perhaps this was her chance to see how Kurama became what he was in the present. She watched his back for a fraction of a second before running after him. Why did he promise that? The first time he found her was a complete on accident. That was a year ago when she got lost and hurt herself during one of her personal explorations. Being part of nobility, it became a commotion when she turned up missing, afraid and alone in the woods. She could not move from her injury. She was frightened, but luckily, a blonde-haired boy found her and carried her home. Her parents were less welcoming to him due to his low birth and mixed blood, but regardless, the two children promised they would be friends, and if she were ever lost again, he would definitely find her again. That was heartwarming. Yasaka-sama, despite Kurama-sama's hybrid status, he still wanted to be your friend, no matter what, Michael commented with a serene smile. Yasaka gave a solemn smile to the current god. She still treasured the times when they were good friends and played games with each other. It was his confidence and determination to not give up that caused her to fall in love with her husband. Thank you, Michael-sama. Yasaka thanked the archangel, before she continued reading. He was her first friend, and as such, she sneaked out of the palace to play with him whenever there was an opportunity. It was the start of a beautiful relationship, and perhaps, it would last a lifetime, at least Shed hoped so. XXX The boy was currently walking to his home 15 minutes after playing hide and seek with Yasaka and the other kids. He gave a goodbye to his noble-blooded friend before she left to go back home to the palace, but not before giving him a kiss on the cheeks. She then proceeded to say farewell to him before she ran off to her home, a blush on her cheeks. That act confused the boy. Did the girl like him? He would give it a lot of thought, but he was unable to since he now arrived at the front door to where he and his father were staying. He opened the door and saw a horrendous sight. Dad. What happened? The boy called out in panic, seeing the wounded form of his father the moment he opened the ransacked door to his home. Everyone, except Office and some members of the hero faction and Valley team, was shocked at Kurama's father's wounded state. Kuno was the most shocked since this was the first time that she saw her grandfather, but she didn't accept to see him like this. The man smiled at the child and tried to sit upright, but failed miserably. He was too injured, and every little movement caused his body to ripple in pain. Most of his attire was dyed in deep shade of red. Blood, it was his. What happened to him to be in that state? Gabriel asked while covering her mouth in horror. I think we'll find out. Cao said. I lost and was punished for it, he answered his son. He was expelled from his peerage by his master for being weaker than the rest. He was the first one to lose in the game. He tried his best, but that simply wasn't enough. Even with the devils, social standing meant everything, and the raiding game feed their needs. They didn't bother to heal his injuries and he had to crawl back home in disgrace. What? Everyone, except Office, Yasaka, Kuroka, Rosweiss and some members of the Valley team and hero faction, was shocked at that statement. Even more so with the devils in the group. Kurama's father was kicked out of his peerage just for losing first in a raiding game. Just for being weaker than his comrades. Even though he tried his best, he was still kicked out for being weak, with his master not even healing his wounds. Did social status meant everything to devils? Every devil in the group, including the 4 Mao, were horrified at this abuse. They knew that there were devils that didn't care about their peerages and that they would dispose of them when they were no longer useful, but to see it happen to Kurama's father was still horrifying. The four Mao were trying to get every devil to treat their peerages equally and fairly, but it looked like there were still some that didn't care about that. Tears filled the boy's eyes, pulling on his clothing as he coughed raggedly. Blood streamed down the corner of his mouth. There were a lot of regrettable things in his life, he admitted. He didn't return back in time to comfort his wife in her last moments. She died in childbirth sorrowfully, and now at the end of his life, he only wanted to see her again. Still, all he ever did was to create a better future for her and his son. Sadly, power was everything in his world, and he simply lacked it. Every devil in the group, even Sairaorg, was feeling guilty about Kurama's father's state. And how he was treated horribly. It was their responsibility to make peace with every other race, but some of their kind didn't want that, only caring about themselves and their status, like how Kurama's father's former master was. It was horrifying to see this man trying his best to create a good future for his son and deceased wife, only to fail just because he wasn't powerful enough, and thus be discarded like trash. Yasaka was getting very angry the more they read about the circumstances that caused Kurama's father to be in that dying state. She knew about her husband's father's death, but he didn't tell her about the circumstances behind it. Now she knew what those causes were, and how her father-in-law died from them. Even though she was allied with the devils, Yasaka couldn't help but feel resentment towards them for causing her husband pain. Oh yes, they had a lot to talk about after this. Kuroka and Rosweiss were upset at this, but kept their calm, more so for Rosweiss. No, you're strong, Dad. You are. You're the strongest. No one is stronger than you. Yasaka and Kuroka frowned sympathetically at the scene. It was sad to see the one they loved losing his only real family left. Even Rosweiss inwardly felt sympathy for Kurama. Kurama, I know my own strength, my own limit, he struggled to say. He swallowed the crimson liquids, mustering his remaining strength and continued. This is a world where power equates to prestige and recognition. I couldn't gain it no matter how hard I tried. I have passed my prime. My ability won't advance any more than they are now. But you are different. You're still young and you've shown them that even though you are not of pure blood, you can surpass them. He announced loudly before falling back to a weak voice. I am so proud of you. Be strong, strongest, always. It was the last encouragement he could give. The man voice ragged at the end as his strength finally left him. He was contented of seeing his son the last time. He closed his eyes to enter the eternal sleep, where his wife would greet him. Everyone else, except Ophis, Valley, Arthur, and some of the hero faction, was sad about Kurama's father's death and the pain it caused to the blonde child. Every devil had a look of guilt on their face. To see his father die due to one of their own kind was very tragic, and it was their own fault for not doing anything to prevent it. Dad. No, wake up. Don't sleep. Help. The boy shouted desperately, running outside looking for help to save his father, but no one stopped to help him. A few bumped him along the way as if they didn't even notice him at all. He clenched his hands, seeing his father's blood on it as countless yokai passed him, heading off to do their own thing. Everyone was just silent at this point. He realized it then. Without power and recognition, he was a nobody. He was just a nameless pebble in the stream of endless people. You're not weak. I promise, Dad, I will be the strongest, and my name shall be feared by all. The boy made a vow as his yuki spiked up. His powers were fueled by emotions as he continued watching the foxfire he produced consume the only family member he had left in this world. Another tail grew behind him, joining the rest as they swinging back and forth behind him. He now has 5 in total, and with it, his demonic energy doubled. Perhaps this was the moment that the cheerful boy changed, and from that day onwards, to him, power was everything. Those that stood on top were truly the strongest and most revered. Kurama-kun, Kurani, Yasaka and Kuroka thought sadly. The death of his father and the circumstances behind it were the things that changed him to become a much different person than the cheerful boy that they first saw. That would explain why he was so obsessed with gaining power. So that he could use it to make sure that no one would dare try to hurt him again and to avenge his father. Yasaka now knew the real reasons on why her husband changed that day. And it made her sad that she didn't try hard to comfort him much more about his father's death. Even though she tried to some degree. Don't worry, Kurama. I will try my best to help you once you come back. I promise. The two women thought with determination. They would try their best to comfort him when he comes back, even if he rejects their attempts to do so. However, Kuroka was still angry at the devils for letting their kind abuse their authority like that and not doing anything to change their ways. Nevertheless, she kept an expressionless face. Kurama. Rosweiss thought with pity for him. Even though she still had resentment towards Kurama for leaving her after taking her purity, She felt sympathy for him after his loss and now knew why he changed. She still planned to confront him about their past, but she would also try to comfort him when he comes back. The Valkyrie was still a bit depressed and jealous of his wife, though, not that she would admit it to anyone out loud. In contrast, she only wanted to stand by his side even after he had changed. She trained and practiced tirelessly, hoping to be strong enough to change the broken system of their society. Due to her purer bloodline, her powers eventually exceeded his as she was the first to gain 9 tails even though had worked harder than her. She became the pride and joy of the whole inner capital while he was pushed back into the shadows, and like all living things, her parents passed on, allowing her to take on the mantle of leadership to ensure the stability of Kyoto. She took it with pride and used her newfound authority to erase the distinction between classes. So Kurama Dono became second best to Yasaka-sama. Despite his hard training, it's a sad fact that everything is dependent on how pure someone's bloodline is to determine their potential. Azazel commented solemnly. The devils reluctantly agreed with the fallen angel, since their society also revolved around bloodlines and status. Yasaka knew of the distinction between classes that existed in Kyoto before she became ruler. That was why she worked hard to pass laws that would grant equality to every yokai species in Kyoto, in order to erase the racism that caused her husband to suffer due to his mixed blood. Unfortunately, the damage on her husband was already done, as he was now obsessed with attaining absolute power. Soon after ascending to her birthright, she was required to continue her line as there must always be one true Kyuubi for the safety of their home. Without a shred of doubt, she chose him to be her mate even against her parents' previous wishes due to his mixed heritage and bloodline. He couldn't refuse and accepted reluctantly. Sadly, the boy she loved was obsessed with power as he continued to strive for it every waking hour. Does power change people? Yasaka had asked herself that question multiple times. She hoped that it wasn't the case and yearned for a day that happy and cheerful kid would come back to her like the beautiful and bright memories she always cherished. Kurama-kun. Yasaka thought sadly as she realized the reasons why her husband was so obsessed with power after his father's death. She also realized that she was unintentionally making him feel inferior to her despite her good intentions to help him. She only wanted to see him go back to the way he was before, a cheerful and kind person, with her at his side, but that was only wishful thinking. Kurama, I am so sorry, the Kyuubi thought brokenly. Despite her sadness, she kept a blank face. She hoped that he could come back to her so that she could fix her relationship with him. Perhaps he would come after they finished this story. Kurama. Kuroka thought with a sad frown. She hoped that she could see her older cousin again, the one she truly loved despite him being married to Yasaka. Even Rosweiss had a small desire to see Kurama again. Oto Saamma. Kuno was weeping for her father and the pain he had endured. It'll be okay. Kuno. Yasaka comforted her daughter, which caused her to calm down. She still had tears running down her face, but she wasn't crying as much as before. After seeing that Kuno had calmed down, Yasaka continued reading. XXXXX with each step, the pavement cracked under him. He was truly strong now, and far more powerful than he had ever been. His immense yuki was leaking from him in unmatched levels, infecting the surroundings while chakra was roaming throughout his inner pathways, enhancing all of his natural abilities passively. Looks like we're back from where we've left off from the previous chapter, Jean commented, seeing that this was after Naruto had fused with the original Kurama, making them one and the same. Yes, and it looks like Naruto-san has become much more powerful than he was before, Gabriel said. His memory came back in full and fused with the ones he already had. He was still Naruto Uzumaki, but he was also Kurama, the yokai from the slums of the inner capital. He was not the current Kurama in his gut, but the one before that. They had shared almost the same childhood. Desperately wanting to be acknowledged, they were more alike than they knew, and now, they were one and the same. So, Naruto-sama is also Kurama-sama, and he has the memories of both, Searsex said warily. Yes, Searsex, however, the current Kurama Dono is the one that is inside Naruto Dono, who is now the original Kurama Dono after fusing with his body. Ajuka told the red-haired man. They just had to see where this led to. Naruto-kun. Yasaka thought sadly, they were definitely similar. Naruto and her husband, since Kurama was now Naruto, she would refer to him as Naruto from now on. Everyone else, especially Kuroka and Rosweiss, would also call Naruto by his name instead of Kurama's, since the mountain-sized Kyuubi was currently inside Naruto. Hey, I am sensing a different kind of energy inside you. It's not chakra. What is it? Kurama questioned from the mindscape, opening one of his eyes to examining the surroundings. He was snoozing previously, but a strange energy was invading his comfort zone. He didn't like that one bit as it felt foreign to him. It's called Yuki, furball, demonic energy. Get used to it. Now, shut the fuck up. I am busy trying to find a way home. Naruto snarled agitatedly. He then stopped running and had a careful examination around the area. Everything looked different than what had remembered. The streets and roads were a lot cleaner, and there were many more buildings erected on each side of the path. Naruto-sama must have inherited the original Kurama-sama's personality and powers, Michael commented. Kurama let out a small growl at the insult, but didn't say anything more than that before drifting back to sleep. Whatever was going on with the blonde had made the idiot grumpy, and it didn't want to deal with it right now. How long have I been gone? He asked himself while blinking. There was a strange aura lingering around Kyoto. It was a very familiar aura to him. He immediately knew who it belonged to, but it was everywhere, which was odd. He didn't know the reason for that, so he decided to ignore it for now. He had more important thing to do, like looking for the entrance back to the inner capital. Luckily, the entrance was located at the same spot where the Kinkaku-ji, Temple of the Golden Pavilion, stood. It seems that Naruto-sama is in the human version of Kyoto. He must have returned to the same area that he was in before he left with Hagoromo-sama, Lafay commented curiously. But does he know how long he had been gone from our dimension? Asked her brother. That was true, since in the dimension that Naruto-Kurama was in previously, several centuries had passed. How much time did it pass for their dimension while he was away in the elemental nations? Naru-ni is at the entrance to the real capital, Kuroka thought upon seeing the shrine that hid the gateway to the Yukai capital. Passing through a secluded torii, a traditional shrine gate. Within the temple while flaring his demonic energy. The airspace in between the pillars distorted, he entered the newly created portal and emerged into a completely different world. It was a world stuck in the Edo period with ancient houses lined up along the sides of the gravel street with all kinds of creatures revealing their faces from the doors, windows and passageways. They stared at him with curiosity as he walked by them in his human form, but they quickly returned to whatever they were doing as his demonic aura was felt by them. Finally, I am home. Naruto looked at the palace ahead as he passed through the forest. He missed the place as he felt like he had been gone for years. He was gone for years. But how many years, though? Sairaorg asked curiously, which was shared by everyone else, even Ophis. With a powerful leap leaving behind a sizable crater. He jumped over the palace wall, and crashed through the roof of a massive mansion after falling back down again. He fell all the way through to the floor along with the newly made debris in his entry. The destroyed materials were clattering on the waxed marble floor as he landed. He didn't want to wreck his own home, but he wanted to make a flashy entrance. Breaking through the roof was a good way to it, and it definitely got everyone's attentions. Where are you, bitch? Get your ass out here for some needed whooping. It has been long overdue. Naruto roared as his immense demonic aura filled the hall. Naruto-kun has the memories of the original Kurama-kun right before he left with that old man. He must still feel angry and bitter with me after our last argument. Before he disappeared, Yasaka thought with dread after realizing why Naruto yelled that sentence. Everyone inside was more than a little stunned. They were not at his demand, but at his intrusion by breaking through the roof. They tilted their head upwards, seeing a newly made hole in the roof as pieces of timbers and tiles still dangling off the edges. It would take a bit of time and money to repair the damage. They returned their head back to normal level and stared at the newcomer. Who is he? Naruto glanced around, seeing some strange faces along with a couple of familiar ones. Everyone was seated in the hall along each side with another person situated at one end on her glorified seat. The throne was the symbol of a ruler, and Naruto wanted to sit on that for a long time. He could now, but unfortunately, it was already occupied by a certain golden-haired girl. The girl was wearing a fancy feathery kimono like a princess from the Warring States era. To her sides was a fox lady and a long-nosed old man. Holy crap, that's me and the group when we went to Kyoto for the first time on a class trip. Issei called out, which shocked everyone else except Ophis. There was also Kuno at the same age as she was now. That would mean that Naruto was gone for about 12 years or so in their dimension, and he came back after Yasaka was kidnapped. It was also the time when Sairaorg was about to talk to Yasaka about an alliance between Yukai and devils, to mend the strain between them. That was the time when Issei-san and his group agreed to help me rescue you, Okawa-sama, Kuno said with shock in her voice. Yasaka nodded to her daughter before she continued reading. Who are? The leader of the Tengu called out, but he couldn't finish what he was going to say when the blonde vanished from the spot right before his very eyes, leaving behind a swirl of leaves. Where did that come from? Was that teleportation? Valley asked curiously. No one knew the answer to his question. Startled, everyone snapped to where the intruder had gone as they stood up from their seats. The person they were looking for was now leaning over their host. He moved his face closer to the girl as everyone took a few steps towards him. He narrowed both blue and golden eyes as she returned the gaze with her twin golden unflinchingly. She was trying her best to keep her calm composure. It was bit scary, but she would not show any fear. The way he's staring at Kuno-san is quite scary, LaFay commented upon seeing the coldness in the man's eyes. Fast. Did anyone saw him move? Oh, the Opie dragon couldn't see anything besides breasts? The fallen angel joked, but inside he was surprised. Whoever this blonde was, he was incredibly fast to the point that the angel barely made out his movements. I could barely see his movements, it's like he was teleporting, Gabriel said in a surprised tone. Azazel turned to face Sairaorg, who remained silent, in order to see her reaction. She was also having a difficult time of following his movements and gave a small nod. How many steps did he take? Was it 3 or 4? Sairaorg asked herself. What do you think? Azazel asks, I am not sure, he's very fast and he felt like a yukai. If that was the case, then he would not harm Kuno-chan, Sairaorg replied thoughtfully. That's what I am afraid of. I wonder if hell truly hurt our daughter. Yasaka thought with worry. There was a good chance that Naruto would hurt Kuno since the blonde would believe that the latter was born from a different father and not him. She wasn't able to tell him that she was pregnant with Kuno before the blonde disappeared from the DxD universe, right after one of their arguments. Kuno, unlike her mother, was anxious for a different reason. She was nervous about meeting her real father for the first time with her past self, and thus, will Oto-sama love me? Thought the small fox child nervously. Azazel nodded. The fox lady and Tengu quickly entered their stances to defend their ruler at the moment of notice even though she was temporary until her mother could be found. They both were wondering who this man was as he looked oddly familiar. Where had they seen him before? Regardless, whoever he was, anyone bringing harm to their princess would face their wrath. They would lay down their lives for her sake. How dare you? Kuno began, but her cheeks were pulled apart by the strong grips of the blonde's hands. She looked about 11 years old, but with their race, it was difficult to tell how old they really were. Scoop dtat, Kuno demanded. Once he let her go, she rubbed her slightly puffy and reddish cheeks afterwards. That was very rude of him. That had to hurt, Jean commented upon seeing Kuno's swollen cheeks. How dare you do that to Kuno-sama? The fox lady shouted alongside the Tengu. Naruto glared at them as his killing intent erupted and gave each one a potent dose. It was a new ability he gained, and they saw flashes of their gruesome deaths before shivering. They almost slipped into unconsciousness from the psychological assault and dropped down to their knees. Soon after, they never experienced killing intent before and had no previous built-up resistance against it. With a smug on his face, he returned his attention back to the girl. He used pure killing intent to subdue those two. Valley commented upon hearing the previous paragraph on how Naruto almost caused brain damage on those servants with killing intent alone. Yes, and just from those two's conditions, it seems that Naruto-sama's killing intent is quite potent. It could be much stronger than what he has shown, Michael said with caution. What just happened? He did something to them, but what? I did not see. Yasaka. Why are you a child? What the fuck? How long have I been gone? Hang on, that makes no sense. You should be older, not younger, Naruto vented. After he was done, he noticed the girl didn't have all 9 tails like his wife should have. The tails she showed were clearly visible, so she must be in a sealed state at the moment. Kuno-chan does look like the younger version of you. Yasaka-sama, Azazel commented. The mother and daughter really did look alike, and Kuno would become just as beautiful as her mother once she matured. Thank you. Azazel-sama, Yasaka said in appreciation of the compliment from the fallen angel. However, she was still worried about how Naruto would react. I am not Mayem. Who are you? Naruto interrupted, realizing this girl was obviously not his wife. She looked very much like her from long ago when they were children. I am Kuno. I am the daughter of Yasaka, the administrator of the Yukai living in Inner and Outer Kyoto. Now, I demand you to state who you are and the reason on why you broke in here. Kuno requested haughtily. I don't think this will end well, commented Arthur. With everyone agreeing with him, Naruto didn't know that Kuno was his daughter since he disappeared before her birth. Add in the fact that Yasaka wasn't able to tell him that she was pregnant with Kuno before his disappearance, and you would get a big and deadly misunderstanding, with Naruto believing that his wife cheated on him with another man during his absence. All of this happened when Kuno told him that she was Yasaka's daughter, which would cause the misunderstanding to happen right about now. Yasaka and Kuno were getting very nervous on how Naruto would react to this. Naruto was in shock. How long had he been gone? He didn't remember that his wife was pregnant when he ran off on that day before meeting the Sage of Six Paths. That meant. That unfaithful bitch. She didn't let me do it and she gone and did it with someone else. I am going to kill her when I see her. Naruto roared in pure rage as the whole building shook from his fury. Naruto-kun. Yasaka said with dread from hearing the pure rage from her husband's voice when he believed that she cheated on him with another man, which wasn't true. She was still in love with him to even do such a thing, but she doubted that Naruto would calm down now that he believed that she did that to him. The whole building shook from just his anger alone, Elmenhilda said with growing fear, but she tried to keep her composure. Most of the group shivered from the look of pure rage that Naruto was giving. Naru ni. Kuroka thought in a scared manner from seeing Naruto roar out in anger. Kuno shared the Neko's house feelings of fear when she saw her father's look of pure rage when he roared out his accusations of her mother cheating on him. Azazel and Sairaorg were now more than alarmed. The amount of demonic energy being released by the blonde was on par with an ultimate-class devil, and worst yet, the amount he was releasing was increasing exponentially. It showed no hint of even slowing down. What? Most of the group shouted with shock in their voices upon hearing the amount of demonic energy that was being released by Naruto. It was even more shocking to hear that the increase in his demonic energy was going at an exponential rate and that it showed no signs of slowing down at all. How powerful was Naruto for him to have this much demonic energy that easily rivaled a high ultimate class devil? Was he more powerful than all of them? This won't be pretty, Georg commented grimly when he felt Naruto's demonic energy still rising with no signs of stopping. This felt like Sairaorg-san. The boy with brown hair muttered with dread as he remembered his fight with the heir of the Bael clan earlier in the week. This is worse than Sairaorg, Issei. Naruto Dono is far more dangerous than him, possibly even much more than shown here, Azazel told the pervert with a grim look and beads of sweat coming down the side of his cheeks when he suddenly sensed Naruto's increasing level of power out of the blue. For some reason, everybody in the room could feel Naruto's power as if he was in their presence, even though the feeling was coming from the book and TV. Perhaps Hagoromo did this so that they can see and feel how powerful both Naruto Kurama was before the sage went back to his home dimension. It feels slightly different than normal, Yuki, said the girl with the long, light brown hair and violet eyes. It was interfering with her angelic power more than it should have. Where is Yasaka? Where's my wife? Naruto demanded angrily from the Tengu, who was still huffing heavily from being mentally assaulted. He's pissed, Hercules commented upon hearing Naruto's angry voice. The blonde was happy not at all. Wife, Kurama Dono? The Tengu asked while the fox lady was speechless. It had been years since Kurama had run off. They didn't chase after him as he always returned again when he was done venting, but the last time was different. When he didn't return for days, Yasaka became worried. She then ordered them to send out people to look for him as she could not leave the capital herself, but despite their efforts, no trace of him could be found. He simply vanished, and they thought the worst had happened. Looking closely, the blonde did look a lot like him, only that he was slightly taller and broader. He must have grown in those years away, but where had he been? It's true, since both Naru-tan and Kura-tan are now one and the same, Sairaorg said, recalling from the previous chapter in which Naruto was fused together with the original Kurama, effectively becoming one and the same, with memories of both people. Of course, the people in the book wouldn't know that since they lacked any information on what really happened to the original Kurama, who became the current Kurama. I don't think that they know that the two of them are now the same, Sairaorg-sama, Rosweiss said with a neutral look, but she was secretly worried about Naruto. Seeing his anger meant that he would snap at anyone at the slightest provocation. Naruto. I hope that it won't get worse, Michael said cautiously. I go by the name Naruto now, Naruto said, lifting the Tengu up by the collar. Now where the fuck is she? I said Naruto. Naruto corrected in a menacing tone as he was more comfortable with that. Besides, Kurama was the sleeping furball's name. Naruto Dono. Yasaka has been attacked and kidnapped when she left to meet up with an important messenger from Mount Meru. Her whereabouts is currently unknown, but from what we deduced so far, she must still be in Kyoto as nothing has happened to the city yet. We were able to acquire some leads from our allies. It could the work of the Chaos Brigade. If that was the case, her life is in great danger. Since you are back, Naruto Dono, we should able to find her quickly with your help, the Tengu explained while everyone remained silent, watching the display cautiously. The situation here is very tense, Gasper said shyly, with most of the people in the room agreeing with the vampire's comment. Kuno was a bit confused. Her mother never explained to her about who her father actually was, only that he went somewhere and would return one day again. She was hoping for the day that he would return, but this wasn't the family reunion that she had imagined. Her mother was kidnapped and her father wanted to kill her mother. Okawa-sama. Oto-sama wants to kill you. Kuno asked her mother with dread in her voice. When she heard her father roared out his intentions to kill her mother, she became scared. She hoped that he wouldn't do that. I hope not, Kuno, but I think it's up to your father, Yasaka told her daughter sadly. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the long-nosed elderly man as he took in the information. He thought for a bit before letting go of the Tengu. He turned back to the girl, who was still sitting on his seat. Get off. Naruto ordered. Kuno blinked in surprise, but didn't comply. I said get off. Did he have to yell at her? Valerie asks. Nobody responded to her question. Please, Kuno-hime, come here, the fox lady requested as the girl vacated the throne and stood by the woman's side. Naruto sat down to his rightful place, feeling very proud for one reason or another. He leaned back a little and eyed everyone in the room before him. Naruto-kun always wanted to be the leader of Kyoto, Yasaka thought, still sad that Naruto believed that she cheated on him. So someone went and captured her, huh? If she dies, then that means I will rule, right? Naruto asked nonchalantly. They all had their shocked faces on from the question. They weren't sure if he was joking or not, but it seemed less likely from his demeanor. He was being serious. He's willing to let Yasaka-san die. Issei yelled angrily upon hearing Naruto's indifferent question. Calm down, Issei, Rias told her fiancé sternly, which he reluctantly complied. Some of the others were shocked that Naruto would leave his wife to die so that he could rule Kyoto. Why would he do that? Was he that obsessed with power? You bastard. How could you let someone like that die? The brown-haired boy called out. You got balls, Oppai Dragon, to call Naruto-san out like that, Baku told Issei with a grim look on his face. He thought that it was stupid to call Naruto out like that in the blonde's territory. Does he know the consequences of doing that? Naruto paid some attention to the boy, who seemed more upset than him for some unknown reason. It wasn't his wife that got kidnapped, so why did he seem to be so upset? Naruto immediately formed some theories in his mind after the boy's rude outburst. Idiot. Valley muttered an insult at Issei for being stupid. Thanks to the boy's outburst, Naruto would suspect that the pervert had done something with Yasaka, which would be very bad. Mother can't, Kuno began, but was interrupted. Naruto dono, you can't be serious. If Yasaka-hime is killed, then Kyoto will undergo some very dramatic changes. It would be the death of us all. The Tengu advised from the side while the fox lady held Kuno tightly. Naruto licked his lips a little at the comment. He knew what the Tengu was hinting at. A nine tails was a must for Kyoto. Their existence was responsible for maintaining the balance of ki flowing from the different areas of this land. Without one, chaos would erupt, and the first thing that would happen was that their city would merge with actual humans. One. It's true. A Kyuubi is required to maintain the balance of energy flowing into Kyoto from the surrounding areas. Without one, Kyoto would self-destruct from the destabilization of the ley lines since no one would be there to channel the magical flow, Yasaka explained, which everyone knew about. Issei and his group were able to save her from the hero faction before that happened. Furthermore, Kyoto was a giant magical bomb that would go off if no one was there to maintain its magical flow. It would be disastrous if all of that power was not channeled to anywhere. Power, Naruto thought. It is fine, we don't need her, I will suffice, Naruto replied before materializing 9 crimson red tails behind him. Deadly slitted pupils soon appeared in both different colored eyes. The tails were no longer golden furred like he once had, but since he had 9 of them and was a true Kyuubi now, he could displace Yasaka and take control of Kyoto as well as maintaining the force field around their home to keep it safe. Everyone, except Ophis, felt a chill running down their spines when they saw the 9 crimson red tails that materialized behind Naruto. They felt so much dread and malice coming from the blonde when he materialized his tails. It was like a predator watching them with hunger, and they were the prey. Issei thought he saw an orange-crimson fox that was easily larger than a mountain glaring at him in sheer hatred and malice, causing him to almost lose control of his bladder. Is this possible to have this much hatred and malice? Arthur asked with trepidation in his voice. Everyone couldn't help but ask that question themselves, which they had no answer for. Absolute power was at his command, and it was what he had always wanted. The Tengu could not utter a word from seeing the ominous tendrils behind the blonde while Kuno was more than frightened at the menacing, bloody red tendrils. It wasn't like her mother's at all. There was no warmth radiating from them, only endless dread and malice. Kuno was trembling from feeling the malice that was emanating from her father, and seeing those ominous tendrils did little to ease her fear. Yasaka was able to hug her in order to comfort her, even though she felt the same way. Is there anything else? Naruto asked calmly, while glancing at the rest of the people in the hall. There were devils, an angel, and a fallen angel from their auras. Members of the 3 great factions were here. He could feel it as his senses were greatly enhanced. He used his ability to sense negative emotions to decipher their intentions. Naruto has Kurama's ability to sense negative emotions of any living being. At the moment, they showed no malice, so he let them be, but that could change very quickly. He has the ability to sense negative emotions. Ajuka muttered, shocked that the blonde could use that ability to detect anyone that had a shred of negative emotions in them and see if they were hostile or not. Naruto-sama can also tell what race a person is too. Valerie commented when she heard that Naruto used his senses to tell what race Azazel and his group were by their auras. Oto-sam. I am not your father. Don't call me that. Naruto angrily snapped at the girl, his hands clenched, trying to restrain himself from killing the child outright. He was more than furious at his wife, for he was sure that Kuno was not his daughter. She was born after he left, so she could not have been his child. It wasn't that long since he disappeared and his wife had already changed her heart. That's not true, Naruto-kun. I still love you. Yasaka thought sadly when she read that Naruto was still pissed off at her for cheating on him. She didn't cheat on him, but there was no one around Naruto to clear this misunderstanding for him. Oto-sama. Kuno was crying when she heard Naruto reject her in a hurtful way. Her past counterpart had reunited with her father, but he didn't think of her as his daughter since he thought she was the daughter of another father. Even if she herself wasn't there, the rejection was still emotionally painful, and him thinking of killing her was even more painful to hear. It'll be alright, Kuno. Yasaka tried to comfort the little fox girl, but Kuno still kept crying. The Kyuubi leader was emotionally hurt that Naruto thought of killing their daughter, but she saw that he restrained himself from doing it. Would he really kill his own daughter? Sairaorg asked with shock in his voice, but no one answered. The little girl flinched. Kuno didn't know what he meant, but tears invaded her eyes from the rejection while the fox lady tried her best to comfort the young princess. Snapped out of his fear-induced trance a while ago, Issei was shaking in anger from seeing Kuno cry, but a look from his harem, with Rias giving a stern one, kept him silent. Naru ni, Kuroka said worriedly upon seeing Naruto's behavior. Naruto dono. I can assure you that Kuno Hime is your daughter, the Tengu asserted. Naruto leered menacingly at the bird Yukai, which caused the latter to sweat fearfully. Taking a deep breath to calm his raging heart, he cocked his head to face the Tengu. How is that so? I left before she was born, so she could not have been my daughter, he retorted. Why was he so angry with his wife? Was it because she broke her oath? Or was it because she didn't tell him? Which was it? The more he thought about it, the more his rage spiked to apocalyptic levels. He's getting angrier since he still believes that Yasaka-sama cheated on him, Michael said worriedly. Yasaka became worried as well upon seeing Naruto's emotional state. She could only hope that no one antagonized him, or else the consequences would be very bad. She is Naruto-sama. Kuno-sama was born in less than a year after you disappeared, the fox lady assured while holding the shivering girl in her gentle arms. Is that so? That still does not make her my daughter. The bitch could have mated with someone else after I was gone and gave birth to her, Naruto retorted again. They had been married for a while now and she still gave him no children. It was one of the reasons why he wanted to mate with another instead, but Yasaka didn't like the suggestion and she expressed it physically on his body time and time again. Since that was the case, there was a high chance that Kuno could not have been his daughter. That could be why Naruto-sama believes that you cheated on him, Yasaka-sama, Gabriel told the Kyuubi leader, who frowned sadly at the thought. She was also sad for beating him for suggesting to mate with another woman, but she couldn't get him to listen unless she did it. But mother said that she only loved one person. If that was so, then why did she name you Kuno? It means suffering. Was she suffering with me? Naruto snorted angrily. Kuno-sama's name means 9 weights, not suffering, Lafay commented. I believe he misunderstood the meaning, Lafay-chan, Jean said. Kuno blinked. No, that wasn't true. Her mother had said her name was. Tengu whispered something into Naruto's ear as his eyes widened. He then face-palmed at the misconception and assumption on his part. He now knows the meaning of Kuno-san's name. Rosweiss commented upon seeing Naruto palming his face at the false assumption. Sorry, my bad, Kuno, 9 weights, but that doesn't prove anything. Naruto apologized and reasserted his stance on the matter. Ah, excuse me, but I think you should get a blood test or something along that line instead of guessing, said a tall man appearing to be in his 20s with an average build, black hair, golden bangs and black goatee. Azazel decided to finally speak up, seeing how this situation was going very badly. I doubt that a blood test would work, Azazel, since both Naruto-sama and Kurama-sama are now one and the same, with Naruto-sama's body being the base, Sairaorg commented, but he could understand that the Azazel in the book didn't know that fact at all. Naruto rolled his eyes at the suggestion. Since his and the original Kurama's bodies had merged, a blood test would not work anyway. Too much things had changed, and the changes had bothered him more than a little. For one, their capital would never allow anyone that was not a Yukai inside. foreign messengers and diplomats come and go, but only one at a time. However, there were 6 people that were not supposed to be here at all. Is that true, Yasaka-sama? Ajuka asked curiously. Yes, our capital would only allow foreign messengers and diplomats in and out one at the time. Only Yukai are allowed in. However, since Kuno was in charge at the time, I assume that she let Azazel-sama and his group in to figure out a plan to rescue me from the hero faction. Yasaka replied to the Super Devil's question. However, now that Naruto was back, he would kick Issei and his group out of the capital without a second thought since they weren't allowed to be in there. Who the fuck are you? Naruto decided to ask with some irritation in his tone. Azazel's eyes twitched at the demand, while the fallen angel was quite laid back and would let things slide past him. He didn't like being insulted right in his face. The black-haired man exhaled in a sigh, letting it go. They were guests here, so they should escalate things. You should piss him off. Azazel, your guests there, Kuroka told the fallen angel, who nodded at her suggestion. My deepest apologies. My name is Azazel. I represent the fallen angel faction. It is an honor to meet you, Naruto Dono. Azazel greeted politely before introducing the rest of the people with him. Sairaorg did her own introduction, however, she tried her best to not give any form of nickname to Naruto. Of course Sairaorg-sama would give someone who she just met a nickname, Graphia commented stoically, which caused the Mahu Shouju to pout cutely. Of course I do. Sairaorg shouted childishly, causing some of the others to sigh at her behavior, especially Sona. Naruto gave a brief glance at each one that was introduced and nodded. I am Naruto, and that's all you need to know, he said firmly. With the introductions out of the way, you can all leave now as this problem no longer concerns you, Naruto said with finality in his tone, outstretching his hand to show them the entrance at the other end of the hall. He had decided that he will find his wife and get the truth out of her, one way or another. I got a bad feeling that this won't end well, Yudo said with dread. Something was going to happen, and he believed that Issei would be the cause of it. Hey, wait a minute. We're here to help Kuno-chan rescue her Okawa-sama, Issei declared, not wanting to leave just like that. He wanted to see the massive-breasted Miko in person. That wasn't the only reason though, but it was the one that stood out the most. Disgusting dumbass. Really, Securite? You know that ogling at someone's wife will get you killed, right? Valley axed the pervert. Issei could only sweat nervously when Kaneko glared at him for doing something like that. Ha, please, the Opie dragon only wanted a reward. Azazel snickered a little as a joke. Zenovia, Asia and Irina were nodding their heads and gave their own jabs as well. Sadly, they were completely clueless to the fact that Naruto loathed comments like that about his wife, regardless of whatever he felt about her right now. Oh crap. Azazel said with a pale face when he realized that his counterpart had said something that would get him and his group in a lot of trouble with Naruto. Yasaka felt dread since she knew that Naruto would punish anyone who would dare make comments like that about her, which Azazel inadvertently did. Reward. Naruto muttered suspiciously before his mind clicked. From that realization, came the apocalypse. That's not good, Sao commented, I'll fucking kill you. Naruto roared in apocalyptic rage after understanding what the fallen angel had meant from his joke and disappeared from his seat in a swirl of leaves. Everyone, even Ophis by a small amount, shivered when they heard the pure rage and malice that came from the blonde's voice when he became pissed at the comment that Azazel made. They felt his power spiked with his anger, and it felt very cold and malicious. Everyone could only look at Issei and Azazel since it was them that provoked Naruto. You done it now, Issei Hyodo, you just signed your death warrant, Valley told Issei bitterly. The boy, however, was scared shitless when he heard the rage from the blonde's voice. He could only sweat in fear from the realization that his past counterpart was going to die for doing something very stupid, such as ogling at Naruto's wife. Sairaorg and Azazel immediately tracked the blonde's movements and intercepted him as fast as they could. They clashed before the blonde could carry out his declaration, which would definitely have resulted in a dead pervert in the most gruesome manner, with his blood and bones splattered all over the hall. You should never make comments like that, Azazel, ever, Searzex told the fallen angel sternly, who could only nod his fear in fear and shame for causing this. A boom exploded from the collision as the 3 combatants flipped back to disengage. Both Sairaorg and Azazel felt their arms pulsate in nearly unbearable pain. Naruto clenched his right fist from the opposite side, checking the hand and realizing that these two had enough strength to block his attack, even if he was somewhat serious at killing the disgusting pervert. Issei was frozen in sheer fear when he heard the pure rage and malice in the blonde's voice when the latter roared out his intentions to slaughter the perverted dumbass. You need to teach your boyfriend to not ogle someone's wife, Gremory, Georg told the red-haired girl, who nodded in fear at Naruto's anger. Naruto-kun, Naru-ni, Oto-sama, Yasaka, Kuroka, and Kuno thought in worry at seeing Naruto becoming very pissed. They knew that he would not stop until Issei was buried 100 feet under. Even Rosweiss felt a little worried about Naruto killing Issei in the most brutal manner. You guys get out of here. Now. Azazel ordered after realizing his worst mistake. Issei shook himself out of his stupor and was getting ready to leave with Asia, Irina, and Zenobia, until they heard Naruto speak. I wonder how strong I am against the great Azazel and Leviathan, Naruto said with a demonic smile that sent chills down everyone's spines from the sheer coldness and malice it emanated as his body was coated with a flickering reddish aura. Yuki and chakra propagated through his limbs as his eyes became sharper. The blue one had a golden tint around it while the other was vice versa, with slitted pupils appearing in them. Every single one of the people in the room, except Ophis, felt like shitting themselves when they saw the demonic smile that appeared on Naruto's face. That smile was much more frightening than Great Red, and that was saying something. Not only that, but it looked like Naruto was going to fight Azazel and Sairaorg. He has chakra, Kuroka muttered in surprise. Please wait, Naruto dono. The Tengu beseeched, but it was too late. Naruto disappeared in an orange flash and smashed his full strength, which was capable of shattering multiple buildings to rubble, right into Azazel's solar plexus before the man realized what had just happened. Azazel might have been able to block the strike if he wasn't stunned at the speed that was displayed. He felt several of his ribs cracked under the blow as he gasped in agony. That has to hurt. Elmenhilda commented upon seeing the hit that Naruto landed on Azazel. However, there was now an aura that surrounded Naruto. What was that? And what was that movement ability? Sairaorg's eyes widened. She couldn't track the blonde at all. It was like he wasn't moving and more like teleporting from one point to another instantly. What kind of ability was that? Also, what was that strange aura around him? It seemed to become thicker each passing second. Senjutsu. What? Everyone, except Ophis, Yasaka, Rosweiss, Kuno, and Kuroka, shouted in shock upon hearing that sentence. Naruto was capable of using senjutsu. Want that make him take in the world's hatred? The five who didn't shout had their eyes widened at Naruto using senjutsu. Naru-ni can use senjutsu, Kuroka thought with shock and awe. However, she was a little bit worried that Naruto would lose control of himself to the hatred and attack anyone indiscriminately. This feeling was shared by Yasaka, who worried that he would hurt Kuno. Rosweiss was quiet the whole time, but even she was shocked at Naruto using senjutsu, a technique that would cause users to go mad. You and I are going to have a talk about this, Issei, Rias told her fiancé sternly, who nodded fearfully. That's the end of the chapter, Yasaka said with shock. Thanks for watching.